Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever it is, wherever you're coming from. This is a truly international presentation we're bringing to you today. I think from the people we've got on the cameras at the moment, we're coming to you from three different continents. So it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you to the webinar from Infobip and Masters of Code on AI-powered shopping season, how to triple your customer base while streamlining operations during the most busiest of days. I know it sounds fairly grandiose, but you've got us for the next period of time to talk you through how we think we can make that possible. And who are we? Well, this follically challenged pretty man in the bottom right-hand corner, am your host. I'm Josh Diner. I head up product marketing, SaaS, and verticals at Infobip. The pretty man above me, who happens to be my boss, Chris, is the product marketing director at Infobip.
Hey, everybody. It's nice to meet all of you. I head up the product marketing team, among others, here at Infobip, and I'm super excited to be here to talk about the AI-powered shopping season.
We have Dimitri with us, the founder and CEO of Masters of Code Global.
Hey guys, good to meet everyone. Thanks Infobip for inviting us. I had Master of Code and happy to dive into conversational commerce today.
And last but not least, we've got Ted, the VP of Sales and Partnership at Masters of Code Global.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ted Franz, and I'm happy to talk to you today about how we can help accelerate brands' engagement with their customers using conversational AI.
Awesome. It's lovely to have you guys. And for those who follow Infobip and follow Masters of Code, you'll know that this isn't the first time we're collaborating on something like this. We had a roundtable a few months ago looking at how generative AI was affecting marketing and communication. So I'm really pleased to have the team back together. For those of you who don't know Infobip, and I am hoping most people are familiar with us, we're one of those great background organizations. We really work to facilitate communications between enterprises and their customers, and we're really big. You might not have heard of us, but we interact with 70% of global smartphones each year. The best way that I can explain that to you is through use cases. If you receive a text message from your bank with a 4-digit code you need as a one-time passcode, chances are it's come through our platform or through a platform similar to ours. If you're speaking to an Uber driver and that number is anonymized, we are responsible for the number masking, which is keeping both of you secure. And as you'll see later in the presentation, we work with a lot of retailers with some really cool generative AI use cases. And we're really pushing conversational everything, really, from conversational support, conversational marketing, through to conversational commerce, to make sure we're staying at the cutting edge of the conversational communication space. You'll see here we work with some really big companies, some global brands like KFC, Papa John's, Flamingo, Walmart, and we also integrate with a lot of the well-known platforms like Shopify, VTEX, Salesforce, and BigCommerce. Today, we're joined by Masters of Code, and in their own words,
Master of Code is one of the top IT services companies in US and globally, with specific focus on conversational interfaces. So coming from anything mobile and web-based, we see transition to conversational interfaces. That's where users are moving to. That's where we're helping our customers build their next engagement with their customers in conversational interfaces. So we have done a lot of conversational experiences, first with NLP, now with AI. And overall, we have engaged over 1 billion users across the globe with our conversational solutions built for Fortune 500 companies and mid-sized companies as well. So we're happy to dive in here with you guys to talk about how that is done, how to approach that, and how we collectively with Infobip can help brands stand up their next-gen conversational solutions.
Awesome. So what are we going to be covering off today? So we're going to kick off with consumer and business trends, move on to understanding AI-powered conversational experiences, enabling conversational commerce through AI-powered solutions, providing support 24/7, an omni-channel approach for retail success, optimizing strategies for shopping season 2024, and measuring success and ROI of conversational experiences. And I think we'll bring this up plenty of times throughout this, but if you're a retailer and you're looking at your 2024 shopping season strategy, the time to start is now. So if any of the messaging today resonates with you, then please do reach out to us at Infobib or reach out to us at Masters of Code. We'd love to have conversation about what we can do collaboratively to help you really push in an agenda for shopping season. Well, with that said, I'll pass you over to Chris.
Thanks, Josh. So let's get started with some of those trends that Josh mentioned in the beginning of the table of contents. So here at Infobip, we have been observing both from external data as well as our own data sources that shoppers and businesses are increasingly moving towards messaging to build their relationships. The data you see here on the left-hand side is from our 2024 yearly report, where we analyzed more than 471 billion interactions that customers made with the businesses that they go to. As you can see, even compared to the year before, some messaging channels grew more than 130% in usage. This trend tends to increase, especially as younger demographic groups assert their place as the main spenders in the retail industry. We also have seen on the next slide external data supporting this trend. More than 2/3 of consumers prefer messaging as their main way of contacting the business. With that in mind, we realize and we see in the data that personalization is critical. With evolving shopping behavior and increased maturity, more and more consumers expect communication to be tailored to their needs. And in fact, they opt out or they leave the channel immediately when they're exposed to generic marketing content. So it's very important that we consider how to personalize the messaging and the conversations that we're having with our consumers when we're engaging them and driving them towards purchasing of our products. So how does technology play its part in this? We see two major trends that change how businesses and consumers interact. The first is the emergence of super apps. So these are apps where the entirety of the consumer journey can be covered through the single interaction or single location, providing them rich content, providing them product information, guidance for purchasing, and taking them all the way through the purchasing and paying for the materials that they want to buy. Coupled with that, the rise of generative AI is offering businesses the opportunity to provide that personalized experience to their consumers en masse. So leveraging generative AI for the personalization aspect that I spoke about on the previous slide. Digging in a little deeper into that rise of generative AI, we're seeing that Gen AI doesn't only provide the tailored experience for the consumer, but it also leads to better satisfaction scores for businesses. So automated conversational support dramatically reduces costs, increases capacity, and does so without sacrificing any of the quality of the service. Furthermore, through personalized campaigns and smart shopping assistance, resolving open-ended questions on product suggestions, generative AI can have a direct impact on a company's revenue. So growing revenue, driving down costs, increasing capacity, and providing a significantly higher quality of service. It's a win-win across the board for both the brands and the consumers. Underlining what we're seeing in all of the data and all of the trending, the potential for generative AI is huge, and retail and e-commerce is at the forefront of this opportunity. It is the second most impacted sector by Gen AI potential. So it's a great opportunity right now to start thinking about how generative AI can benefit your retail or e-commerce business as we start to prepare for the busy season, the high season coming up in just a few months. So let's turn it over to Masters of Code to take us a little bit deeper into how we can transform the business and the communications.
Thanks, Chris. So let's take a look at what brands who are doing this right typically have, are executing on. Number one, they can provide an immediate response to the customers, right? So one of the biggest things that we still see in some cases when we start speaking with brands is, they've got busy hours or let's say work hours, and after hours, they're just leaving a form, for example, to have a contact or or some kind of, I would say, extremely static kind of process. You definitely want to improve that, and a bot or an agent or assistant can help with that. You also want to have cross-platform consistency, and what I mean by that is you're reaching out to your customers on a variety of channels, and you need to make sure that all of those are operating in sync and that you're gaining knowledge along the way from how your customers interacting across those channels in a cohesive manner, so that you can come to the next bullet point here, which is the personalized experience. You want to personalize that so that if they start a conversation with you on the web, maybe through your app, maybe even call into your contact center, all that information is being captured now. And you can then use this to your advantage when you personalize communications back to them. And also, you want to be proactive. Many times we see brands that they may have even a basic kind of capability in terms of a chatbot, but it's really reactive. It's not proactive. And people get busy in life. They may be surfing on their computer. They may be looking at, a few different sites, you and your competitors even, right? So you want to be able to make sure that you're re-engaging with them in a proactive manner with content that resonates with them, to see if you can move them through the funnel. And then targeted comms. So once you have that personalized experience, you're syncing with them in the channel that they prefer, at the time that they are looking for interaction with you as a brand. You can really target them with specific communications to help, get them to take action. And then, of course, once they do take action, hopefully become your customer, there's this whole loop of the feedback that you can get from their experience to learn more and more from the customers and what they liked or didn't like about the experience. And by using natural language processing in Gen AI, you can have these much more natural conversations with customers. And I think we're seeing already in the data that customers do recognize this. They do appreciate when you do, let's say, understand who they are, what they're looking for quickly, and you can get them the information that they need to make a buying decision. And then lastly, on the scalability side, especially with the shopping season coming up, there's an immense amount of activity online, in e-commerce, in-store, phygital as well. So you really have to be able to make sure you have a solution in place that can strike while the iron's hot, if you will, and make sure that all the customers that are looking to get information about your products or purchase your products, can do so in a quick and easy manner.
I think for me, why this resonates so much with a retail e-commerce sector is that we as a consumer are totally spoiled for choice, especially when it comes to things like fast-moving consumer goods. It might be that 15, 20 years ago, to make a purchase of a pair of shoes, for example, you would have to go into a bricks and mortar store and buy that pair of shoes. You're having a one-on-one interaction with the proprietor of that store. Now, if I'm after a pair of Nike shoes, for example, there's 10,000 places online where I can buy the exact same pair of shoes. What's going to keep me coming back to the same shop time and time again to build up any kind of loyalty is this thing. It's this immediate response, this cross-platform consistency, this personalized experience. If a company knows that I bought something, they know my buying habits, they know when to recommend something to me at the right point of my buyer journey, I'm more likely to stay with that company that has proactively engaged rather than any company that I've had a bad experience with. If there's a company whose customer services are only available via email with like a 1-week turnaround, or I can only get them on the phone, I'm not tied to that kind of thing anymore. There's so many companies who've got the potential to adopt so many different forms of communication that it's going to be the ones who are adapting to generative AI, to personalized experiences that are going to stand out from the crowd. And I think more and more than ever, that's going to resonate during the shopping season now and into the future.
Absolutely.
And one more motivator here is so we talk about different pain points that conversational solutions can help the business be better in, alleviate load or make something more efficient, response time, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the biggest drivers also is trying to compete in the environment of high-tech shopping now, like Gen AI infused shopping. Amazon's doing it, Microsoft's doing Bing shopping. If individual brands are not doing Gen AI infused shopping, they're starting to lag behind drastically because the big players are showing how it's done. They're creating this habit with the users that this is how it's done now, and the users will not tolerate the long wait times. The users will not tolerate impersonalized messaging. The users will not tolerate low quality interaction with the business now. So for business to actually be competitive, they have to start doing conversational Gen AI infused communications.
Yeah, and I was going to add that becomes even more impactful now with the whole direct to consumer, initiative as well, right? So we talk to brands fairly frequently now that, they've been working and going to business or going to market through partners, and now they want to go direct, or at least have an aspect of that to their business. And they really are relearning how to kind of engage with customers. So it's an interesting process. So a lot of what you mentioned, Dimitri, resonates there. So when we talk about maximizing the impact during the shopping season specifically, so you have the ability now to really provide that seamless customer journey, right? So again, and I've just recently shopped this week for a few items where I would say I won't mention the brands, but they're kind of falling short. So in one instance, I was conversing with the customer on the brand on the phone. I've already bought their product, yet I continue to get emails from them asking me to buy their product, right? So it's not very seamless. Clearly, their information that they're getting on the email channel and what I've just discussed with them on the telephone is really not in sync. And that also then talks to personalization. So if they would know that I've already bought their product, they wouldn't be pitching me the wrong product. So what I was actually talking to them about was some of the accessories, so I can continue using their product the way I would like to, the way it's intended. And I've just kind of run out of this one piece, but yet they keep on trying to sell me the actual, original unit. So it's not really personalized or enhanced from that perspective. And their conversion rates and analytics and insights to this transaction is really artificial, because they think potentially they have somebody that's going to buy another one of their main units, but that's not going to happen because they already have one, right? So there is definitely a way, and I would say a pretty well-defined process that we implement on how to start getting in to this kind of more dynamic, personalized approach. With that, I think we can offer a few more thoughts and comments on the following slides.
I think what you're saying is kind of criminal as well, because we've probably spent 10 years now talking about big data. Companies, especially big brands, have been collecting personal data for a really long time. So to not be able to then take that data and turn it into something engaging for an end user they're not adapting to the current times. And I feel you, because I have exactly the same thing. I shop for my consumer toiletries through the same company every single time, and they literally scan a barcode every time I go into the shop. They know what I'm purchasing, and yet every day I'll get an email promoting some kind of female hair care product to me. So they obviously don't know me as their customer, despite having all of the data on what I'm purchasing.
Yeah, very much so. Still in silos. And now, so when we speak to these brands and we want to implement such technologies like these messaging chatbots, virtual agent, which you could call like a voice agent or an interactive voice assistant, or any other parts of these automated systems. I mean, we need that data really ultimately to help drive these personalized experience. So, we've got, again, like I say, processes and techniques to kind of flesh that out. During the discovery process with customers, we learn about existing tools and the legacy, let's say, systems or other things that they have in place, and where their data is stored, and all other kinds of things like CRM systems and other types of, let's say, legacy systems. But we really, it becomes really important as a way to kind of help bring that, let's say, golden record together for a customer sometimes, so that we can really, develop the types of solutions that really help drive these outcomes that we're talking about today. And one, obviously, is messaging chatbots. You saw earlier today, or in the presentation earlier, how, messaging is still, it's king. And it's still growing. I mean, I have children that are now, one's out of college and one's in the middle of college, and they only message, or they do some quick, they'll do a Siri or something like that with their voice search. But the time has changed. I think sometimes we have leaders in place who are trying to target, for example, Gen Z or soon Gen Alpha, and are not really, I think they're missing the mark at times, because they don't really understand the power that unified, or let's say omni-channel kind of messaging experience can create and can provide for their brand. Also, with the virtual voice agents now, of course, with the fairly recent release of Gen AI, this is an area where there's just so much growth happening right now. It's really amazing to see and to kind of work with. And typically what we do is we isolate certain specifics, part of the solution. So it's kind of a modular approach, so that as technology improves, we can take what's available in the InfoBip stack and other third parties to kind of keep these things current. Some customers, they express concern sometimes, with AI so moving, I don't want to build something now just to have to change it in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 6 months. So there's some truth to that, but I think you can put in place the types of solutions and structure them and architect them in a way where we can very simply and very safely start using this technology today. And then as things change over the next 6 months, 12 months, years, et cetera, keep that current so that you have a solution that's really providing best of breed, solution to your customer base. And voice, let's not forget, voice is a pretty common interface. Last time I checked, right? You can't use it in all places. If you're in a meeting interacting with a brand on the side, obviously it's a messaging kind of capability there that's going to shine. But more times than not now, people want to have that voice capability, walking into a store, talking to a kiosk, ordering from a QSR, fast food type restaurant. And then automating the messaging systems. I mean, automation we're continually seeing really, really powerful ROIs, I would say, from automating basic processes, especially when it comes to, let's say, contact center type scenarios. And this is both external to your customers, but also internal as an agent assist concept, so that you can quickly get your agent the proper amount of information or the information that they need, or give them top 2 or 3 recommendations of additional information that they can use in their interactions with your end users, right? So don't forget about the internal use cases and the power and the productivity gains that can be seen here. I think I read in one recent, I think it was a McKinsey report, where I think about 50% of the CEOs that are investigating Gen AI use cases now are doing so for the purposes of internal productivity gains. All right, so always look as well to the internal use cases for your organization as a way to quickly see the impact of, in this case, what Gen AI can do for you.
I would add on the voice section of that it's, we see a lot of users attempting to get the same information from both voice and messaging channels and doing this cross-channel activity. So it's like critically important to provide a consistent experience across the entire engagement strategy, right? Too often we find that voice gives a very different experience than messaging or social. So building virtual assistants and messaging chatbots that are leveraging the same data points and providing the same context and same messaging is super important to make sure that consistent experience is there, regardless of where a user connects through.
Yeah, that's a great point. You're absolutely right, number one. And number two is, especially on the voice side, I mean, we find a lot of need. So we've got conversation designers on staff, right? So these parts of our team, engage with your team on the brand side to make sure we understand the tone of voice, to make sure that all of the, let's say, existing things that you've done are taken into account when we want to design, in this case, a virtual voice agent for you to help you kind of engage with your users, right? So it is a critical aspect, the conversation design piece, which I think is quite often overlooked. Really, I can count on both hands a lot of different times, let's see, where we've seen an organization roll out a solution that was largely led by the IT department. It's a technology solution. So the IT person has built a functional solution. It's absolutely functional. Does it scale? Yes, it does. Does it have the proper integrations to these different data points? Yes, it does. But still no one uses it. And that's because that person's an IT person. They're not a conversation designer, right? So we really do have to take a more holistic approach to this. And we do so in our projects. Shout out to the conversation designers out there. Gen AI is not replacing you anytime soon. It's a critical aspect to some of these projects, or I'd say most of these projects. I'd like to just make that note on conversation design being critical.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for mentioning that, because I'll give an example here. Of how flow actually happens in an environment where it's multimodal, an environment where it's omni-channel. So that we're speaking about a specific use case, because sometimes it's hard to understand, like, how do the customers actually bounce between the channels? Is that like a real life experience, or is that only a hypothetical thing? So here's an experience that we have built. So let's say a customer has been on an e-commerce website or a retail website. They have put something in the cart. Like most often, you see that that's where a lot of the value is sitting and is not realized. So lots of cart abandonment happening, right? And there is different solutions to try to make that work. But what we have built is a customer has put something in their cart. They left the cart. So the solution that we have built, Omnichannel, is that a Gen AI voice bot with a very gentle, pleasant woman's voice is calling the customer. It's a proactive call. It's compliant and says, hey, is this a good time? I see that you have left an item in your cart. Let me know if I can help you anyhow, answer any questions, or just let you know if there is any promotions coming up for this product. Now, if you have put something in the cart, you intentionally did so. Like, you did not do that for no reason, but there was something that was a barrier for you to actually check it out. It could have been that you got busy. It could have been that you started looking at something else and it started drawing your attention there. But if we now bring your attention back to the cart through an elegant experience of communicating about that item through a Gen AI's voice experience, then it's more likely, not guaranteed, but much more likely that you will re-engage with the brand. So you can start asking, something about this item that you did not find an answer for on the website, for example. Like, how does this compare to this item? And if Gen AI provides a smooth answer to that, now that's plus one more argument for buying. By the way, is there a promotion for this? Can I get a discount? Well, if there is a way a business can do a discount, like even a 3%, 5% discount to get that user engaged with that item, well, wouldn't the business do this for the sake of restoring a lot of that value? Now, to make this easy, the way we do the omnichannel here is that once the user says, yes, I'm good to buy, what we say is, hey, look out for SMS. There's going to be a link for you to pay. That's it. Have a voice conversation, elegant conversation, re-engaged user, follow up with an SMS message with a link to pay, and can be paid right there in the mobile. Very smooth experience, shows very cool results. And this is omnichannel for a very specific use case. But that's how brands need to start thinking about it. They don't need to do a revolution. They can take a specific use case and just give Gen AI multi-channel a chance, and they will be surprised.
Oh, thanks, everyone. I think we've managed to spend about 15 minutes on this slide. So I hope the audience enjoyed these graphics. Going back to something I mentioned earlier, the stories and the use cases we're working on at the moment, I think we've got a really great customer example from North America to talk through here with Bloomsbury.
Yes, thanks, Josh. I'll start on this. So Bloomsbury is a flower shop, and what we decided to do for them is kind of gamify an experience for Mother's Day. This is going back, I think, 1 or 2 Mother's Days ago. But really, was the choice was to boost their engagement, like through a campaign, make it personalized, and then also this was one of the first solutions we worked with Infobip on that had a Gen AI element to it, because we thought that would be a nice, safe way to kind of engage and start showing some of the power of using this technology. Basically what it was the user would come on, they would fill out a couple of questions, kind of like complete a quiz. Ended up more than half of the users completed the quiz. And let's say the winner got a free bouquet of flowers from mom. So 38% of the users actually chose to have Gen AI help them write a nice loving note or a funny note or a sincere note to mom about the gift of flowers that they were sending. So it was really interesting. And we leveraged on the back end one of the popular generative AI SaaS solutions and integrated that, but also had the ability to kind of control that to make sure we could keep it on the rails in case people started asking all kinds of funny questions. So we could come back and say, this is only about flowers, or this is really only about sending a note to your mom. Don't make mom upset, kind of thing. And then 78% of the users ended up claiming their prize. And it was a real nice, I think, simple but elegant way to start exposing your user base to the powers of Gen AI.
And moving on, we've got another case study here.
Yeah, and another one that we did was for an electronics company. Now, this was a little bit more, in the traditional e-commerce retail flow. So it was what I would consider a sales assistant bot. So it had all the, the database of the products, the product descriptions, the pricing. We can ingest that quite easily, even if it's dynamic. We can via API, keep this information up to date for the bot or the assistant's purpose. And then to capitalize really on, in this case, Black Friday sales, they were basically saying, okay, we need something that can help somebody really pick a solution, get it in their carts, ask any questions they may have, offer them help if they are having trouble, because there might be 5 different types of cameras, 3 different types of this product, right? So in collaboration with Infobip and using Apple Messages for Business as the specific channel, help them basically interact, provide better customer service, and then as well, obviously from a top line perspective, increase the number of sales, again, without any human agents. So in this case, CSAT was increased by 80%, or it was on 80% on average. We had an 84% engagement rate, so people actually did use the assistant. It wasn't just there without people like engaging with it. And we use various techniques that are available in that Apple Messages for Business channel so that the user doesn't have to sit there and type all their answers, right? They can much more quickly just, let's say, tap a selection to continue the conversation and the flow, right? And within a $300 order value on average, that was a pretty successful engagement. Yeah, so moving on. So we started off really talking about what brands should do right in a previous slide. And now we're talking about, okay, so you've implemented these solutions. What can you expect? The title here, Zero Opportunities Missed. It really does mean that as customers come to you and start engaging with you, you're really going to have your best shot at converting them. So because you can quickly understand their intent. And again, that may be augmented by the use of Gen AI. It certainly doesn't have to be what I'll call a 100% Gen AI flow. More times than not, it's a hybrid approach that we use, because Gen AI can be used to very quickly on the front end understand what the customer's intent is. It's a great triage agent. And then depending upon the vertical, depending upon the let's say the flow, some of those need to be very deterministic. So we need to have those scripted to make sure prices are correct or other information that the assistant or the bot gives out is good. But you've got this, you're meeting their expectations from a time perspective on the channel that they want. You can manage those high traffic volume spikes because AI is just there. It's not taking a break. It doesn't go on holiday. It's not going on vacation, available 24/7. And critically also, because the Gen AI aspect could be introduced, you don't have to worry about, let's say, a user confusing the bot, let's say. And what I mean by that is we used to build using very scripted approaches, and we would build a service bot or a support bot or a sales bot or a Q&A type bot. So really kind of specific about what the bot was programmed or scripted to be able to understand. And you know what that means from a user perspective, because you used to come and as soon as you ask a question, it would be like, I don't understand. Can you say it again, right? So it just wasn't scripted for it. With Gen AI now, like the cat's out of the bag, right? So people expect any bot that's out there, quite frankly, to be able to kind of behave almost like ChatGPT and these other types of similar programs. So you have to plan for that as a brand. You may want to, as a primary objective, want to have a sales bot or a support bot, but customers are going to end up asking it all different types of questions, right? So we can use Gen AI where it's good in this to quickly understand what that intent is and then route it appropriately. But you can certainly boost sales with it. Because most of the mundane tasks are now automated by the bot or the assistant, your contact center staff, they're having better days. They're not worried about, I just have to tell this person when the store is open or what's the closest location, or answering a very, simple thing like when did my product ship. All that can be automated, quite successfully automated. Staff then, if you're using it from an internal perspective as an agent assist, can also quickly get a lot more complex information presented to them. So they now appear more intelligent and can solve your customer cases a lot faster. So you end up avoiding a lot of that staff burnout or just turnover. You can also use this to gain access and service new markets. This is multilingual now. So you don't have to go there. It's very quickly, once we establish a bot, let's say in English, and you quickly want to add Spanish or French or Italian or something else, it's really not a big lift. Of course, we want to verify that it's treating those languages appropriately. And it's great to have native speakers to do that. But more and more, this technology is improving so quickly. You can quickly add these, and it's really not that big of a lift, as I said, from a technical standpoint. So you're enhancing your customers' loyalty because you're speaking to them on their channel. You understand who they are, what they purchased, what they need quickly, getting them, inserting their information. Hopefully you're blowing your competitors out of the water here because you're staying ahead. And then ultimately, that's going to lead to less lost opportunities. So I mentioned or referred to this briefly, but while there can be very intentional functions for certain bots for routing a conversation to a certain spot or providing information or gathering feedback and surveys and whatnot, more times than not, a brand wants to just have one bot that presents itself with its tone of voice, et cetera, to the user. But we know in reality, and we've programmed it, or let's say architected it in a way so that that bot actually is a jack of all trades. It can do routing, to a person, to a live agent, to a specialist. It can provide the information, it can handle transactions, oftentimes in the channel of choice if that channel supports it, like Apple Messages for Business, RCS as well. And then, of course, it can be that proactive kind of assistant, if you will, to help a user to keep them engaged so they don't abandon the cart, for example. So really, there is one for every occasion. More times than not, as I said, we want to kind of present a unified bot and just program and keep this in mind from a functionality perspective.
Oh, and the interesting thing about this, I think, is like when we talk about communications, we normally look at it as a timeline and say that a company will develop from a rudimentary system of comms, like just sending SMS or just sending email, into something conversational. The interesting thing about chatbots is it just doesn't work like that. There's certain companies and certain situations that call for simple informational chatbots or routing chatbots, right up to these generative AI pieces that can suggest complementary products as part of a Black Friday. It really depends on the nature of your business as to what the best use case is going to be for you and the best fit for your business.
And I would add that when we look at creating bots for specific tasks that then all work together and are orchestrated to work together, it actually lightens the risk of IT challenges, right? When you're and development challenges. When you're making changes to a bot that is very task oriented or very use case specific, you don't have to do regression testing across the entire environment of automation. You really can focus that effort towards the changes that you're making and the bot that you're making the changes to, which streamlines go to market for changes and updates. It makes it easier to introduce new use cases. It makes it easier to adapt to changing market conditions as they're happening.
Yeah, and if I can add, it's also, I mean, because of the nature of the technology, we can also take a very phased approach to this. Right? A lot of times, I think people they're worried about, we need to do this and this, and you can really take a phased approach and replace or augment certain things as you go. And that's great because typically in these projects, everyone wants to see quick success. You want to see quick success, number one, if it's some kind of proof of concept, so that you as a brand manager or a person can go and get additional executive support for, let's say, a larger part of the project. So we're very often taking these in a phased approach and also consult with brands on what should those phases look like so that we can find that early success, so that we then can provide quick ROI to, again, attack different sides of the organization, different functions within the organization. All right, so it's very critical, and we can help kind of design that, let's say, approach as well when we speak to the brands. Another thing I was going to mention is there isn't oftentimes a set of requirements. Like not everyone has, I know what Gen AI is or AI, and I know exactly how I want to use it and where I want to use it. There's an ample opportunity to also have really a discovery kind of period or sessions about determining what those requirements are, right? So you can rely on us or leverage InfoBip and Master of Code to help you kind of flesh that out. So it makes sense for your organization because you're not going to use it the same way some other organization does, right? You may have different data points, you may have different processes in place, things of that nature. And of course, as Josh, you mentioned, I mean, the use case ultimately is what's going to determine what technologies we use, what channels you use, what other SaaS elements are used, data points, et cetera, right? So it is, I think, a very exciting time because we can bring to the table a lot of expertise in this area. And we're seeing some fantastic, let's say, examples of brands now using this technology. But oftentimes, you start simple. You may automate the few frequently asked questions. You may automate some other tasks that today live agents are taking, just so that you can have those, let's say, agents freed up to handle more complex tasks. And the great news is that the ROIs they're provable. They're there, right from the beginning.
Yeah, and as we think about, unique uses for AI, it's a great bridge into our next case study. Coolonautica is a great example of leveraging AI to increase engagement and activity with consumers. So Coolonautica is a regional food producer striving to promote healthy and sustainable ingredients. And they're doing this through a recipe website where InfoBip implemented an AI chef to provide meal recommendations and answers to health-related questions. The results are really fascinating, and they reinforce the expanding digital messaging use by younger demographics and elevated engagement. And this is resulting in increased purchasing, increased order value, as well as developing a stronger relationship between this brand and their consumers. Significant increased time spent on the website and more activity on the website from that younger demographic drives a significant volume of interaction and a great growth and improvement in the relationship and the bottom line for the brand. So a really intriguing use case that reinforces how you can think, out of the box for how AI can support your program and support your consumers and help drive that personalized engagement to keep them involved, keep them purchasing more and purchasing more often. So we talked a lot about omnichannel already, and I wanted to reinforce why omnichannel is so critical, so essential for retailers. During shopping surges, shoppers do expect convenience, speed, and consistency. And as we think about the build up to Black Friday and the build up to the high shopping season, we need to have a foundation in place to be able to deliver on this convenience, speed, and consistency. Omnichannel presence empowers that connected and cohesive consumer journey, including in-store, online, mobile devices, and even through social media. 87% of retailers acknowledge the critical role of an omni-channel marketing strategy for their success. And even more amazing, marketing campaigns that utilize an omni-channel approach see a staggering 494% higher order rate, reinforcing how valuable that omni-channel presence is and how essential it is for retailers as they approach their strategy for the shopping surges and high shopping season, which we're preparing for today.
So I'll touch on now just two attractive channels that we're working with that I think over the coming months and years, specifically for North America, but also worldwide, are really going to make an impact, give brands an opportunity to really, I would say, differentiate themselves on their offerings to their customers. I'll start on the right with Apple Messages for Business. So there's a demo in there. I think we'll provide a link to that, once the webinar is available. But a very powerful channel. I mean, if you think about it, a customer can discover, first of all, a brand can create this kind of solution. It's a branded type channel for the brand, so exactly who you're dealing with. You're not just going with some random SMS. It has a lot of powerful capabilities in the channel. I mentioned a little bit before about the ability to just, instead of typing all your requests or responses, just having the opportunity to pick and tap and select. So that becomes very powerful and simple for the user. And of course, being Apple, you can tap into Apple Maps and all other types of the Apple ecosystem in this solution. So it becomes a very, I would say, powerful channel that I think brands are kind of overlooking at this point. Some certainly have taken advantage of it. Some very large, I would say, Fortune 500 companies has. But I think you should be on the lookout for additional, let's say, opportunities here, specifically with Apple Messages for Business. And then on the left-hand side is an RCS business messaging solution that we developed. This one is skin product store, so they can help do things like lotions and other things related to skincare. But RCS as a channel, also very interesting. The successor to SMS, which is coming. Again, very rich conversational channel with similar things in the sense that there's carts and catalogs and other things that a user can quickly swipe and tap. It makes the experience a lot more, let's say, conversational. And then critically, Apple's recently come out and mentioned now that they will be supporting RCS as well. So I had spoken to brands previously about these channels, and they were somewhat reluctant only because they wanted to do something for all customers. And they didn't want to have to determine which of my customers have an iPhone, which of my customers have an Android device. Some, of course, did take advantage of it because they realized after doing some of the research that, for example, 80% of their customers was one way or the other, using one platform or the other. But now, since both of these will be available on any kind of handset, I think it's critical for brands to start trialing and testing with these channels now, because you'll have the opportunity to understand how you can best leverage them to your advantage against your competitors and really delight your customers more. Anyone that's used and we're taking a look at an SMS, let's say, experience side by side with either an RCS or an Apple Messages for Business. And I would throw in there WhatsApp if you've got international aspirations. Then, I mean, you'll see it's night and day. I mean, the experience and what you can do and how as a brand, you can differentiate yourself. I mean, it's phenomenal. And then lastly, I think we'll touch on a couple of points, really. I mean, if you're wondering for areas or places to look at about where you might help start your strategy and leverage AI, there's a couple areas here. Dimitri, would you like to comment?
For sure. So how does a business think about rolling out Gen AI, conversational AI solution? Because everybody needs to start moving that direction if they haven't yet. So it does not have to penetrate every part of the business, but what it can penetrate, and very likely successfully, is where it's breaking at the seams. So basically look at where the business is suffering, either from high traffic volume in the season, or a return and exchange overload because of some SKU, some product that was problematic and the customers didn't like it. And the loyalty of that customer base now heavily depends on how efficiently you're going to work through that return process. Or let's say you have a supply chain disruption issue or inefficiency in communication with your suppliers. To any of these pain points, conversational solutions apply very efficiently. Like, first of all, they're pretty quick to set up. Secondly, they can be very pinpointed to a specific use case and provide a very elegant and very commonly accessible way to collaborate over an issue. So if it's supply chain disruptions, you can stand up a conversational channel, any conversational channel. It can be SMS, it can be WhatsApp, like any conversational channel, and you can get everybody onboarded in there, your internal team and your suppliers, and the conversations can be facilitated there in regards to any triggers in the supply chain issue. So if there is a product that you are restocking with is being delayed, you want to get that notification quickly. If you try to stand up that process within the conventional pieces of software playing together, that's going to be like months, right? Conversational can just tackle that specific piece in a conversational channel in a matter of a couple of weeks. So your team now has a way to much more efficiently work through this. Just like Ted was talking about internal process efficiencies introduced by Gen AI and conversational solutions. If it's return and exchange overload, you can quickly, in any chat channel, stand up an AI that will handle specifically that product line return process. We have done that for businesses, and where the initial issue was that the customers are very unhappy. When the customer is very unhappy, you got to deal with that fast, and not just like matter of fact, but you got to be elegant about it. Gen AI really allows to do that. As soon as the business understands what the process behind this is, Gen AI can take that process in a conversational way, discuss that with the customer, get that all handled in the conversational channel, and the customer is happy because it has been handled quickly, elegantly, and efficiently. So yeah, think about where the business experiences pains, try to tackle that specific issue, and go from there. You're going to be excited. You're going to see how efficiently, quickly conversational solution can be stood up. And it's going to be easier now to think, what is the next piece of the business that can be sped up, made more efficient, more elegant through Gen AI and conversational channels.
So to help you think through some things to consider for a successful implementation, planning ahead for the 2024 shopping season, there are a few different areas that you want to focus some attention and plan ahead on. So consider things like, how long will it take to implement conversational AI? And when is the best time to start this process and start the deployment so that I can be fully operational before the shopping season? Next, what is the minimum and maximum investment required to implement conversational AI for my use cases? And are there ongoing costs associated with maintenance and updates to that I need to take into consideration over time? To what extent can the conversational AI be customized to fit those specific business needs and branding that are important to me and important to my customers? Think about how flexible AI is in adapting to new business strategies and market considerations and conditions. And also, how will conversational AI integrate with current technology infrastructure? I have a lot of back-end systems that the conversational AI needs to connect to be able to offer up that personalized experience and offer up the right content at the right time to the end users to drive success. So those technology connections and integrations are critical to making the AI work successfully. Some other considerations are centered around things like, what are the anticipated results that I'll get from this? And how can I plan ahead to measure those and track those results so I can prove success? Does the conversational AI comply with relevant data protection regulations? Data security and privacy is critical, and I want to make sure that my AI complies with those regulations. What type of training is required for staff and my team members and my agents to effectively manage and utilize conversational AI in their day-to-day job? And how do they support customers who are having experiences with that AI, and how are they prepared for it? And finally, can the conversational AI scale according to the seasonal demands and traffic spikes that I expect for this upcoming shopping season? If you take into consideration all of these key points as you're planning out your conversational AI strategy, then you are setting yourself up for a much more successful result as you start to integrate conversational AI into your program. So let's take a look at another use case, and I'll pass it off to Dimitri to share with us.
Thanks a lot. So I'll talk about a product that Master of Code developed. And this is pretty exemplary because the product was initially developed for the web only. And there's more and more use cases of the product that are flowing the users into conversational funnels. So the product is called One-Click Upsell, and it's a leader in the upsell category in Shopify. The product was built for Shopify customers. So anybody who runs Shopify store installs that product, and essentially the product helps to drive upsell revenue by doing all kinds of upsell. It can be pre-checkout, during checkout, post-checkout, and long-tail upsells even after that. So this is like an all-in upsell for any part of the funnel. So the product is 7 years old and is being continuously innovated. Historically, we are seeing 10 to 15% more sales with the stores that installed this product versus the stores that are not doing the one-click upsell. And historically, we have sold over 670 million worth of upsells for different stores, having processed 1.5 billion worth of orders, part of which were the actual upsells that we have helped generate. And we are moving from just the web presentation of the upsells, like, different upsell boxes, different options for upselling. There is AI that is now taking more and more of the upsell recommendations from the store versus a human doing that. So that's one piece of pure AI. And conversational AI piece is now getting some of these customers into conversational funnels and talking to them as a virtual assistant about a certain upsell, helping them understand the value of that upsell, helping them understand why it makes sense together with the main product they were choosing, help them get a discount, like the case I was talking about before, essentially engaging the user more, creating more loyalty, and just being much more personalized. And so we have seen a 20% average order value increase already. If you want to measure the ROI, it's 27x if you base it off of the subscription cost of the app. And on an average, one-click upsell generates $233K revenue a year for the range of stores that we're servicing. So large stores to even small stores. Any store can install and start generating more upsells. So that's our product. It's built on Infobip's platform for sending messages and facilitating the conversational funnel. And happy to talk to any businesses that are seeing potential for upsells and are curious about conversational upsells as well.
Thank you, Dimitri.
Okay, so in terms of measuring success of ROI and conversational experiences, we want to take a look at a variety of different things. And typically at Master of Code, we have, of course, the ability to help create the solutions using Infobip technologies and the stack there. But what happens now once you've launched the product, right? So there's a few things that we could take a look at, and we do this either from a training and coaching perspective, talking about professional services, or even offering up at times companies want us to help manage, or let's say Infobip, help manage post-launch the success, right, of the product. So optimizing it, maybe additionally tuning the AI based on the feedback once it's launched. We should be clear that you don't just build it and launch it and then you're done, right? So there's definitely a team that is required to be trained and capable of running the solution. Again, that can be outsourced if you'd like. But generally speaking, you're looking at your CSAT scores. That's obviously a critical area that people want to improve. We're looking at response times, especially on the initial touch from when the customer reaches out, as well as the actual resolution time, from start to finish of the process. Always measuring those conversion rates. And oftentimes the cost reduction becomes important because that's where you're looking for the ROI from the solution, right? So you're going to be automating these flows. You're going to be using potentially less human agents or less of them in specific types of, let's say, use cases or transactions. And that's oftentimes the place where you can see and realize a lot of this cost reduction. And then, of course, there's other engagement metrics that you need to track. And there's various tools that we use to help do this. And we can also even go as far as to build additional analytics and dashboards for you. You use Power BI or you use some other type of system. It's irrelevant to which system you use. We're familiar with all the major ones. But we can even build those, or let's say reports and metrics, to help you keep track of the success of the solution. And then also from the conversational side, then you've got sales data. You're learning new information about your customers with every transaction. You're hopefully retaining them and understanding what that retainment rate is. Dimitri Javascuri just touched very much on, let's say, the upsell opportunity, but think about cross-sell as well, right? So there's the cross-sell aspect where you could also have this. And of course, it's going to shine through on feedback, on surveys, on registering any kind of complaints. Because again, chatbots in the beginning were used as a support device or support, let's say, mechanism anyway, right? So a lot of times we're working with an existing chatbot that just needs to be tuned up and needs, let's say, a nice injection of AI, or let's say updating, so that it can now handle a lot more of these intents. So we can raise the containment rate, and you really, in the end, get more value out of the existing investment that you already made. And then, of course, there's all other types of operational efficiencies, again, reminding you to look in-house or on the internal side, where you can see a lot of these efficiencies. And then really that data, that's the gold, right? So if you've got your data in silos today, you need to find a way to kind of bring these all together so you can action on them and use, for example, Infobip's SaaS to its full advantage, either on a customer engagement aspect, either on a chatbot, or with your with your contact center. So one of the last things that I'd like to show you today is MOCG. On our website, we did provide an ROA calculator for those who haven't yet jumped onto the chatbot bandwagon, or maybe you just want to see how this compares to what you've already deployed. But it's a dynamic kind of calculator that you can use and get access to, and it's going to give you a little bit of an understanding of what hours you might save of your agent's time, which costs a lot, through the use of some of these advanced technologies, especially during peak times when your tickets, when the contact center is, let's say, lighting up like a Christmas tree. That's one of those warning spots you want to look for. You want to understand what's driving that behavior, and then ultimately that's where we're going to look to, apply some of these technologies and solutions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. And to the audience watching this non-live webinar, as always, if you have any questions, please shout them loudly at the screen now. They'll definitely make their way through to us. Let me stop sharing this for a second, bring it back around to everyone in the room, and say this is an opportunity really to sum up what we've been talking about. So if each of you could give me a couple of sentences of what action you think a customer or an enterprise should take off the back of this to make sure they're ready for this shopping season, what would it be?
I'll go first. Start planning now and start thinking about how you can take advantage of those trends I spoke about earlier, personalization and the trend towards messaging for the new buyers that are out in the market and the new buying power.
Yeah, so I always like to think it in pretty simplistic terms. I mean, every brand out there has customers. Every brand out there wants to sell more services. You've got like two sides of a coin. I've not seen a company that we let's say engage with yet where we cannot use this technology to a serious extent, both on the support side and let's say much more on allowing your customers to self-serve themselves, which is a big trend, as well as on the revenue side, trying now to use this technology safely, I would say, to engage with your customers in an upsell and a cross-sell type manner. And then lastly, I would just say, remember, there is that internal use case that is oftentimes available for you to explore and expose. And sometimes it makes sense to run with that internal use case as a learning mechanism as well. So you do that in-house before you expose this to your customers. So we see a lot of companies looking to do that as well. So those are a couple different areas I would recommend.
Awesome. And Dimitri?
Gen AI and conversational is a big trend. It's a heavyweight trend. It's very pronounced, and it's super accelerated, unlike anything we have seen before. It doesn't need to be proven, right? OpenAI, ChatGPT, those are the reference points. And that shows you how quickly conversational and Gen AI is going to be onboarding consumers and affecting consumers' behavior and expectations. So with that, Gen AI is big hype, lots of noise, and lots of really perceived threat. To figure that out takes a lot of research, takes a lot of experimentation, and takes a lot of gut to make the right kind of decisions. We have the entire team putting out traders, experimenting and implementing solutions on conversational and Gen AI landscape. And we have learned a lot. We have figured out a lot of things, not everything, but a lot. So what we can offer brands is essentially, we don't want to right away sell something. If you need a guide, if you need somebody to consult with, talk to, like your Gen AI psychologist, basically, to help you lay out like what is actually happening and how can it apply to my business, we can ideate together with you on that. We can inform you. We can help you digest the information in an actionable way. We'll have pleasure and fun doing that. And we'll definitely find something that will start your path in conversational, or if you are there already, then Gen AI plus conversational.
Thank you. For me, it all loops back around to that one thing. Consumers have more choice now than ever. It's the right time to jump on the Gen AI conversational bandwagon to differentiate yourself from the competition. If you're not able to leverage the masses and masses of customer data that you're bringing in to form personalized offers, personalized engagement, and to keep those customers loyal, then you will lose to a competitor who is able to do that. I would also say it's never too early to start planning for shopping season. I know that generative AI, big AI, all of it can seem pretty daunting, especially if you're approaching it for the first time. That's why you've got companies like Masters of Code, like Infobib, that you can lean on to collaborate with, to co-create with, and to build and tailor some journeys for your customers that are going to work for you as an enterprise. So if you do want to reach out to us, please feel free to Mastercode or Infobib. And let me say a big thank you to Chris, to Ted, and Dimitri, and for you for watching. Please feel free to reach out to us and join us another time. Thank you.